All right, I'm here with Fergs. Fergs, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Michael Ferguson, longtime contributor to ROS. Was previously CTO at Fetch Robotics, where we use ROS. I gave a talk in the, that's 2015 ROSCon on accelerating your startup using ROS. That was the last time I talked at ROSCon, and so this year I'm back with another talk for the first time in like 9 years on a very, slightly different topic. But yeah.
And I want to talk about your talk, but first, what have been your impressions of ROSCon? I think you come every year or most years.
I've been to most. I think there's 2 that I've missed over the years.
Love it.
It's a lot bigger. Like I said, I gave a talk 9 years ago, and today the room was 4 times the size, 5 times the size. Like it's a lot more people.
And we sold out this year.
Yes, I think we've sold out the last couple of years. But we keep upping the cap each year and still selling out. So yeah, a lot of interest. I've been surprised. There's a lot of new users here. But there's also a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't use ROS yet, but I found like this was close to home and I have to come learn about ROS because it's what everybody's talking about.
Okay. So we have our new users, we have our existing community. I think that, like, for me, it's so fun because we see so many people that have been around every year.
Yeah.
Did anything else stand out to you other than there being new users? Any of the technology, any of the talks? Anything?
I think... we're seeing a lot more, like we've passed that point where the majority of people are now talking about ROS 2, right? So I think that's a big one.
Definitely.
On sort of the technical side. There's a lot less sort of ROS 1 focused talks. There's a lot less people being like, oh, how am I going to do this, right? Now it's like, okay, we're working on it. Like, how do we handle this particular issue and those sort of things? And so, yeah, I think it's a lot more hands-on with ROS 2 at this point. And the talks are no longer, like, they don't have to be these grand, like, here's what ROS 2 is going to be about. It's
They're
like, here's these new features that we've added or these new improvements we've made. Like, there's a talk about, like, really speeding up the RCL CPP executors, right? So those sort of, like, enhancements are now where we're at, which I think is really good.
Hell yeah. And tell me about your talk.
Yeah, so I think you're familiar with it, but probably not everybody else is. One of my failed startups from years ago was Unbounded Robotics, and we built a mobile manipulator, the UBR1, shut that company down in 2014, and then during the pandemic, the robot came up for sale on Craigslist. And so I bought it. I've restored it to working order. And then I decided, like, I'll port it to ROS 2. How hard can that be? My slides was like, 4 years later, I'm giving this talk. Right. So the talk is basically, porting a mobile manipulator from ROS 1 to ROS 2. So there's the brief intro of what the UBR1 is. There was a whole bunch of stuff of, sort of challenges and features, right? Everything in ROS 2, I think, is it's built to be more extensible. But that means it is slightly more complex in many cases, and some of the configuration is more verbose and whatnot. And so I had, a handful of, like, lessons learned around that. And then the third part of the talk was really tools for mobile manipulation in ROS 2. Starting with, calibration, mapping, localization, navigation, and then move it, and in particular within move it, using the move it task constructor to do a pick and place demo. So the robot's, picking up a cube, dropping it, going back and picking up again, dropping it. Those are some of the visualizations of what that looks like. Because in ROS 1, like, move it task constructor didn't really exist. It kind of came in late. And so it was the cool new feature to try out in ROS 2.
Love it. Oh, yeah. And what were some of the lessons? Or what were some of the pain points and the things you learned from them?
So I think I had one of the slides was talking about ROS 2 drivers, and that they're still, it's a little like the Wild West in some cases, right? We're getting in other ways, like, really good stuff. Universal Robots here has their booth on the wall. It has, like, an apt install command and tells you, like, what it's actually installing. And so, I mean, that's... the vendor supported drivers in apt for ROS 2 that's amazing. Unfortunately, that's not the standard. Like, that's the gold standard that we'd love to have. But they are the exception to the rule still. So I think that's one of the challenges of getting real robots into ROS 2. For a long time, I think one of the big challenges was that, like, ROS 2, there were ROS 2 developers who were developing ROS 2, but weren't necessarily using it daily on a robot. And they have different use cases and different, concerns. And so getting as many robots in there as you can. I had like a little meme of like, port all the robots to ROS 2,
Yes.
this little like screaming guy, right? And I think that's kind of what we need to get ROS 2 even more adopted is it's just, it kind of turns into a juggernaut at some point that like you get everybody on it. And right. And now we're sorting out those issues that you're concerned about. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that was really exciting to me. I think in the last year, Humble is now the majority of downloads.
It is.
I'm so excited.
I posted a poll
Which is
my talk, and Humble is still like I'd say 50% of people said around Humble. Maybe 25% said they were still on ROS 1, and then the other 25% were mostly on Jazzy, on very little iron usage, which is good because it goes end of life next month.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, these short-term releases. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used iron quite a bit. It's nice to be able to get some of those core features.
And a little more stable than rolling.
You shouldn't put rolling on a robot. Like that's that's pain.
Yeah, chaos.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you excited about from either this year or thinking about next year? Like, where do you think you'll be? Well, where we'll be?
So I'm really excited about the whole Xeno thing, right?
Yes.
MW Xeno. Hopefully, one of the ways that I describe like the difference between ROS 1 and ROS 2 is that in ROS 1, like out of the box, it worked 95% of the time, right?
Yep.
For those other 5% of users, they couldn't make it work ever. It was a limitation. You didn't have that configuration. With ROS 2, it's not so good out of the box. It's maybe 50% of the time it works out of the box. You can certainly make all 100% of the time it actually work if you put enough effort in and figure out how to debug DDS and all of that.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that, Xeno kind of comes along and is a little bit simpler, gets you that like 95% of the time it works out of the box. And then those other 5% of the time, maybe you go and use a different DDS, or you have to like contract a DDS vendor or something like that to help you out.
Super special use cases.
Right. And that way you cover everyone. But the out-of-the-box experience is a lot better. I think one of the areas we're still not seeing ROS 2 adoption in great numbers is education. Right. If you look at like classrooms and whatnot,
because of the
out-of-box experience isn't good, right? They don't want to spend time debugging networking. They want it to just work. It's why ROS went everywhere in research at first, right?
Because it was easy.
It was very easy to work. It maybe didn't have a lot of uptime, right? Like when went back. 2014, 2015, ClearPath, Fetch, we'd all get together at ROSCon and talk about like, well, how are you fixing this? What are you doing to keep your uptime? And so, those kind of concerns have gone away over time with ROS 1. And, I think those aren't the concerns in ROS 2, right? It's like once you've got it working, it's great, it keeps going. Yep. Getting it working is the hard part. And so like research, education, those areas are where we're still lagging behind in user adoption. So hopefully Xeno helps fix a lot of that.
Oh, yeah. And you had a call to action at the end of your talk.
Yeah. Ways that people can get involved and actually, help with ROS. And there's some easy, like, low-hanging fruit, right? Like you can go help with documentation, find, a tutorial that hasn't been updated to ROS 2 that you're interested in. Update it to ROS 2 while you port it from the ROS wiki onto the new, like, federated docs. That's certainly one. And then the other one would be help test Xeno. It's still only available in source, so you do have to build it. That's not that high of a burden, luckily. But try it out because your use case may be very different from what the developers are looking at. And so getting all of those use cases tested is really how we're going to make Xeno 95% like out-of-box experience.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.